are going to head back to some of that financial wellness information here. And we talked about building that house, especially for those, newer people who are newer into trying to get some resources on financial health and wellness. But we also want to make sure that we understand best practices. What are some practical things that we can be recommending to anyone who, planning their finances, maybe on a monthly, quarterly, or annual basis?
Well, first of all, I want to point out that it is very important. Obviously, your health, your general health is very important, but your financial health is very important as well, as we all realize. However, realize that financial stress, if you don't have that house in order and you have financial stress, remember that's going to affect your general health. This is a very important thing to get straight and to work on. And as you said, Coretta, monthly, quarterly, etc., annual, to chip away. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So what you might want to do is you might want to pick a topic like credit cards. Okay. What are you doing, or do you pay it monthly? Do you not, etc.? And if not, could you consolidate with somebody else that has a lower interest rate? I mean, college, if college is a dream that you have, what are you doing? What are you putting in place today? Like a 529 plan, for example, that's can be tax-free if used for college, all the gains. What are you doing in that emergency fund I mentioned? Other goals you have for a wedding. Weddings are expensive. Now is the time. A little money now is better than a lot of money later to try to catch up. It's that compounding interest effect that can do wonders to reach your goals. Of course, retirement. Are you putting enough away for retirement? The insurance that I talked about, including things like long-term care. What happens, unfortunately, if you need assistance in a nursing home, assisted living, etc., because maybe you have a cognitive problem later in life? Once again, it's important, and that's expensive. So maybe it's best to get a plan together today to address that if it happens. And 70% of us will have something to do with that. And then, of course, make sure you got your health care straight. Maybe do an HSA, which is a health savings account, which is a way to pay for health care out of pocket in a tax efficient way, because I am a tax accountant as well. And there are resources out there, Coretta, you mentioned that. So for example, Voya, the old ING, Voya has some great resources. You could go to Google and Google Voya financial wellness, and they have great resources, one of which is blog.voya.com, which can really help. And you also want to work on a financial plan. It's one thing to hope that you get to retirement or wherever, but it's another thing to kind of have confidence that you will. And what percent of confidence are we that we're going to get to live that dream that we all envision in retirement? So having a financial plan, not just investing money and doing things, but actually a coordinated plan, and then something we can track your progress towards all your goals, and to adjust the sales if we're going off track is very important. If you're taking a trip and you're not taking a map, you might get somewhere, but it may not be where you want to go. So I think it would be a great idea to actually try to define and plan. Most people don't plan to fail. They just fail to plan. And so it's very important to get started today on building your financial wellness and your goals and dreams for you and your family. And also to leave a legacy to the next generation, possibly. I have 6 grandkids. So there's a lot of different priorities, and you have to get a plan in place, and you have to put a discipline in place to reach those goals. And that's what I do every day. I hope that was helpful.
100%, definitely helpful, and appreciate you giving that advice to all of us. Definitely sage advice. We actually have another question from the field. Thank you, Rika, for providing a question to our next presenter. So the question is around mental health. So are you aware of ways employers can do mental health check-ins with employees without being intrusive or in violating privacy? You know, often mental health issues go unnoticed until it's exacerbated or way too late. So any suggestions that you'd have on that?
Sure. So one of the things that, could be done that would kind of, basically show that, you prioritize mental health, but not making people worry that they are perhaps going to be divulging information to, their actual employer, is that you can have someone come and do basically like a screening, like a mental health screening, a depression screening, or anything like that, in a private location. And then if someone, does seem to have some indications that they may be struggling with something, in that private screening, that person who would probably, either be a health professional or, like myself, have a public health background, would be able to, suggest either resources that were available internally, or of resources out in the community. Even if it's something as simple as telling them to call NAMI New Orleans. We know that the mental health uh, service landscape can be incredibly difficult to navigate, and people may not even know what services are out there. And so, what we have is our mental health care navigation team to help people find out what that is. So, whether they have insurance through their employer or not, whether they need specific services that are covered by the insurance or not. I mean, like, whatever they need, basically our navigation team is there to um, basically find out what's going on and let people tell us, what's really happening in a confidential setting, and then finding somewhere where they can get the services they need, whether it's with us or not. The goal is to connect people. And so even something that simple, even if it was just, okay, I don't want to necessarily bring someone in to do the screening, but just making information like that freely available, can really help people at least know that, um, you know, y'all care about their mental health and you want them to be able to access resources, even if you don't have a lot of internal capacity to either provide that, or you don't offer insurance or something like that.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you so much. We're going to head right back to Rosa really quickly. And I think you touched on the second question that we received prior to, but I just want to make sure that we're not missing anything, from our colleagues that shared, that wanted to have these questions answered. And so, if a company doesn't have health screenings, like if they are a smaller business, they're not offering those services, can they still come to you to use your services, and how would they go about doing that?
I think in this scenario, it's even more useful, right? Because if they do not have coverage for their employees, then that means that they may be uninsured or underinsured. So that could mean that they would be the ones that would be most benefited by our services. So as long as they are, individuals are 250% or under the poverty line, they're eligible to our direct screening services. However, I do want to point out that the other bucket of my role is being a supporter, or like give technical assistance to employers to implement something, some sort of activity within their workplace that is more on the, could be educational side, or to enhance an existing worksite wellness that includes cancer screenings. So we've we've demonstrated it doesn't matter if someone has coverage to complete their screenings, that's often not enough to get them to complete the screenings, because they're, life happens and we get busy. So by providing that kind of reminder within the workplace and providing opportunities for education, it answers some of the questions that may be the barrier for them to complete screenings. So even if they don't themselves, right, are eligible for the no cost screening part of the program, they could still, receive some sort of benefit from the program by creating, building into that environment of encouraging their employees to get screened, regardless if they don't use LBCHP services.
Thank you, Rosa. Appreciate that. We definitely want to make sure that we are reaching those who need this information the most, and making sure that everyone is covered. Before we close out our panel today, we would like to give each of our speakers an opportunity to share one last thought to the group to wrap up how they would like to, make sure that you can either get in touch with them, what other resources, or any just last minute tips and tricks that you could help us as we are looking to engage our employees, our employers throughout this rest of the year. The summit is being recorded, and we will be sharing throughout our LiveWell Jefferson family. And so we definitely want to make sure you give us any insights before we leave today. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Ms. Allen.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say this has been a wonderful summit this afternoon. Everything that has come forward information-wise is vital information, and it's all linked together. Not only is your caregiver support linked, your financial health in being able to support to be able to pay for your caregiver support in some instances, your mental health, if you are burned out and you are stressed out with caregiver duties or your work duties, you have to be able to reach out for that caregiver support. It may be that you need the screenings, or you've developed cancer. Now you need the caregiver support, your anxiety and your stress. It's all so linked in together that it's just wonderful that we could all share. And if nothing else, reach out to your health plan and ask if there's any resources for you, be it mental health, be it caregiver support, be it somebody who can work with you on financial wellness. Someone is there to help you. Employers out there, please know that these are important things to your employees to be open to when they approach you and say, our mental health benefits could be better, or what other resources can we get in here to help us with planning our financial success, for looking at our mental health benefits and helping us not be so stressed out and burned out. Be it at home, or be it in the office, or in the community, or wherever that is. And of course, any screenings that these individuals can get, a pound of prevention is worth a pound of cure on the back end. I can't stress that enough. I've been a cancer nurse for a long time, and I love Rosie there because she's doing wonderful things with the cancer screening program there. But I cannot stress enough taking medicines to do whatever you have to do to be cancer-free, but we're all vitally linked in together, and none of us are standalone products. We're all very linked in together, and that's what the employees need to understand, and that's what the employers need to understand. It's not a one thing, one fix for any of this stuff. So thank you so much for all being here and presenting all the information that you had to share, and I've really enjoyed being part of this effort.
Thank you.
Oh, you're
Mr.
welcome.
Sloan, your thoughts?
Yes, thanks again for having me. As Sherry pointed out, there is a great resource, and employers, because I do 401k plans, etc. And employers are recognizing, as I said before, that financial wellness is important because it could affect, absenteeism from the job, all kinds of things. So your employer or your 401k provider may have some great resources as well to help on the financial wellness side. You know, I'd like to close with a couple of things. One, there's 3 hurdles that we need to get over, I tell my clients. One is you have to beat inflation, because inflation will eat you alive over a long period of time. So you have to have probably some stocks in your portfolio to offset the effects of inflation, because everything goes up over time. And we're experiencing some pretty incredible inflation right now. So that's one hurdle. We have to invest our money some in stocks to offset inflation, to keep up with the cost of living. 2, I'm a tax accountant, you have to be very tax efficient in what you do. You should pay your fair share of taxes, but you shouldn't pay any more. I think Arthur Godfrey, some of you might know who he was, he said, you know, I'm a proud American and I pay my taxes, but I'd be as proud for half the taxes. So you have to be very tax efficient, because once again, that can be a terrible leakage in your investment portfolio to reach your dreams. And finally, the third one, and if the first 2 don't get you, we're all, I think, somewhat guilty on this: procrastination. I'm going to do it tomorrow. I'm going to take the first step towards financial wellness tomorrow. I'm going to make sure I'm doing the right and smart thing. Procrastination. So, get on the road, get some help. There's a lot of help available. And I also want to thank the chamber. You know, I'm one of the original 40 members of the chamber, and to now think where we are today with almost 1,000 businesses, and we're able to provide resources like this to our businesses that are members, is just very heartwarming. And thanks everybody at the chamber and everyone who's been involved to get to this level, because it is really a great achievement. So thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you so much. We'd like to go ahead and hand it over to Ms. Shannon Williams to share some last thoughts.
Thanks. I also really appreciate the Chamber's always reached out to us for these type of events, and we really, you know, admire how you realize the importance of mental health. And I'd love to, you know, echo the sentiments of my colleagues earlier about how everything's connected. Well-being and health are all, you know, intertwined together. There's no one way to separate one out from the other. And something else important is that we all have a role to play in mental health and helping ourselves or our loved ones or our employees. And so one of the things that we really, you know, try to promote a lot is education and awareness. And so we're happy to, you know, come and out, talk to your employees or talk to your management team, try to assist with figuring out what would really, you know, be very helpful, you know, and very concrete steps you can take to really prioritize employee wellness. And one other thing that we provide is called mental health first aid. Just like it sounds, you know, it is learning how to identify when someone may be struggling, or even in crisis, and knowing how to respond, because that's one of the biggest things I think that, you know, whether it's in a work setting or a personal setting, something that we all struggle with a lot is perhaps noticing that someone may be struggling, but not knowing how to react and not knowing how to help. And so that, I mean, just education awareness is, you know, something that's so important, because if you are confident in your knowledge of a situation and your ability to address it, you're more likely to address it. And so we all can help protect each other's mental health in that way. And so I'd love to hear from anyone who has any questions. I know that you probably already have my contact info.
We lost you a little bit there, Shannon, but I see you put your information in the chat. Probably that's so insightful, and I think that if everyone would like to, you know, add their information, please do so. I'm gonna go ahead and share with Ms. Rosa Torres. She'll close us out with the panelists and your thoughts here.
Thank you all, and Sherry, I can't agree more with you. Help needs to be looked out more from that holistic lens. I also want to thank Mr. Sloan. Thank you for the reminder on the procrastination. And then lastly, I want to say that employers have a big opportunity to provide that space for their communities, right? Like, because you're building your community within, there's a community within your place of employment. So you have a key space to provide that education, because I think that's the key. A lot of us are so busy all the time that we often forget to pause and think. So I think in the workplace is a key place where you already have to be there. So a key place to provide that education that kind of, makes your employee kind of stop, pause, think, and potentially have a higher chance of acting. And the last thing that I want to say, a very, very simple way, if you do have employees that may not have health insurance or are underinsured, at www.lbchp.com, we do have, .org, apologize. We do have a online referral. It's just a sign up link that employees directly can put their information, and one of our navigators will reach back to them to coordinate that screening. So it's a very, very simple step to connect your employees with our services. Thank you all.
Thank you, Rosa. We've learned so much today during this panel. I would like to say thank you again to Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Louisiana for being our presenting sponsor of the Live Well Jefferson campaign and the Health and Wellness Summit, and all of our wellness patrons. Thank you again to each and every one of our Healthy Business Award winners. And thanks again to our speakers today and throughout this week. On behalf of Live Well Jefferson, as this year's chair of the Health and Wellness Committee, thank you all. And please don't forget, you heard it here, you don't plan to fail, you fail to plan. So please take your learnings today and use them for yourself and your employees in Jefferson Parish.